10 o'clock, and I will call this meeting to order. The chair notes there's a quorum present, and let's do the flag salute. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, let's go into 2.0, which is additions and revisions to the agenda. Commissioners, I had emailed you a grant submittal request form from Chris Fitz for her Oregon Emergency Management Homeland Security grant. So I'd like to add that under consent agenda if you don't have any objections.
I have none.
Okay.
Did I understand on the resident that part of that she would also be submitting for the county grant too, for the match?
No, so she'll be doing, because this grant runs on the federal fiscal year, when the sheriff's budget will include the match funding.
Oh, okay.
So she's just flagging that when it comes to the budget committee, there'll be an ask for the match funding for it. Any other additions or revisions? No. Let's move on to correspondence and public comment. Individuals wishing to address the county court may do so at this time and at other times throughout the meeting. Speakers are asked to raise your hand to be recognized by the chair, give your name and address, and limit comments to 3 minutes. For folks who are signing in via Zoom, it is *6 to unmute yourself if you dialed in. If you came in through the Zoom platform, the unmute is in the lower left-hand side. And I'd just like to remind folks that we are very informal. So as we move through the agenda, if there's something you want to comment on, ask questions about, we welcome that. So with that, any initial public comments? Go ahead.
Good morning. I'm Denny Newell, and I reside at 73364 Blaylock Canyon Road, Arlington. On your consent agenda this morning, you will appoint a candidate for the upcoming court vacancy to the Budget Committee. And you intend to do so without benefit of discussion. I don't know what that looks like to you, but from my vantage point, it smacks of favoritism. Providing the mantle of Budget Committee member to an announced candidate prior to filing deadline could be viewed as a tacit endorsement and perhaps serve as a deterrent to prospective candidates such as myself. Whether directly or indirectly, intentionally or otherwise, I don't believe the court should be seen as providing a leg up to any candidate. Thank you.
Any additional public comment at this point?
I have a quick question or a comment. We had discussed earlier about adding EV charging stations as a project. And I just want to make sure that the county court is aware that there's some federal funding for that. And if it's going to be a joint project or a county project, that it's on your radar during budget season.
Thanks, Kathy. Any other public comment at this point? Not, let's move into correspondence. We have quite a bit in here, so I will just go through these. Yeah, we have time to do that. Okay, so first up is a letter from Justice of the Peace Chris Patnode, just detailing her continuing legal education hours. That she sends that to us as an FYI. So those are documented in there. And we also have a letter from Maggie Cooper of Radar Holdings. This is their follow-up to the agreement that we had for fixing the road at the air base, and in return they were going to renovate one of the housing units. So They're sending a letter basically saying that it's complete. If we would like to view it in person, we're welcome, but it is already rented, which I think is great. And I don't really need to traipse through somebody else's house. So she sent some.
They had good pictures.
Yeah, she sent some good pictures of what they've done, and it looks really nice, beautiful. We also have a couple of letters related to public health. The first one comes from Emily Madisar, I think is her last name, which I believe is their legal counsel, basically saying that given that we are withdrawing effective July 1 from the health district, that we would be excused from participating in the budget process for that upcoming fiscal year, since we'll no longer be part of that 190. And then the other one comes from Shelley Campbell, who's the director at NCPHD, just regarding, it's in response to some comments that were made when we were discussing environmental health during our last session in terms of what kind of services are being provided. So she talks about that and lists some of the things that some of the environmental health services that they've been providing. So those are all in there. In addition, there is a final grant report from the Condon Scholarship Foundation in there. Let's see what else we have. I think that is it. So for folks who are listening and wondering what all these things say, they are all on the county's website. So you can go under our court packets if you want to read any of these things. Are all publicly available. We just summarize them here unless somebody specifically asked for them to be read in court. With that, I think we will move into our public hearing. Let's see, this is the time duly set and advertised for a public hearing in the matter of ordinance number 2022-01, an ordinance for Gilliam County Weed Control Special Assessment for fiscal year 2022-2023. The rate for fiscal year 2022-2023 has been proposed at 7 cents per acre. Hearings are conducted in accordance with ORS 569.175 through 569.620. This hearing is for the purpose of gathering evidence as to the need for, identifying who will benefit from, and to take public input on the special weed assessment rate. This is a legislative hearing. All those in attendance that wish to testify are asked to sign the attendance sheet. So for those in the courtroom, if you're interested, that's there in the back. For those who are on Zoom, if you wish to testify, we'll just ask you to state your full name and address for the record before you give comment. So the hearing is now open. Normally we would do a staff report. I'm not sure where our weed master is. He might be coming to our Arlington meeting instead. So we'll see. So I think we'll just skip ahead to accepting public testimony. Is there anyone who wants to provide testimony on the weed assessment? Seeing anyone in the courtroom, anyone on Zoom, I'll give you just a minute to unmute yourself. It's the lower left-hand corner of your Zoom platform if you signed on your computer, or *6 if you are dialing in via a phone. I don't see anyone, but for those who are interested, we do continue this hearing over to Arlington. So if you have second thoughts and want to really weigh in on it, there will be a second opportunity to receive public comment. So since there is no public comment at this point, and I think we'll hold over the staff report until we're in Arlington. So I will go ahead and recess the hearing. And the hearing is hereby recessed. This hearing will be continued to March 16th at 10:05 a.m. At the Quorum building in Arlington, Oregon. So again, if folks are interested in providing public comment, we would welcome that during the hearing. Okay, let's move on to the consent agenda.
Do you have any questions?
Well, I think, I respect the Dave's concerns, we probably ought to pull that out, so I have a good understanding what the process has been and where we're at.
Okay, so let's pull that out and stick it under new business, if that's okay with you guys.
And then the other thing, and just a minor deal, I noticed, and I believe it was special meeting minutes.
Mhm.
I can look, it said we were gonna have a road department meeting on Wednesday,
Mhm.
and it was Thursday.
Oh, sorry.
Okay.
I can.
I didn't catch it until last week. It was
I have
Thursday.
been, I was a secretary, so thank you.
Thursday the 10th.
So are you saying the consent agenda with the special meeting minutes as amended? Is that what you would like to have?
That's what I'm saying.
Okay, as amended, and then note that it was Thursday, not Wednesday. Okay.
I didn't have any time to.
Okay, so for the consent agenda, we have pulled 5.5. That is now 7.5 under new business. And the special meeting minutes as amended. So exchanging or editing, putting in Thursday rather than Wednesday in reference to the meeting with the weed department. Anything else for the consent agenda in terms of pulling anything? Okay. Do we have a motion on the consent agenda?
I move to approve the consent agenda as amended.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the consent agenda as amended, which consists of consider approval of February 2nd, 2022 regular meeting minutes, consider approval of February 9th, 2022 special meeting minutes as amended, consider approval of February 9th, 2022 executive session minutes, consider approval of March bills pending review, consider approval of revised public transportation dispatcher position description, and consider approval of Oregon Emergency Management State Homeland Security Grant submittal request form. Is there further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, let's move these over here. Okay. We will go into unfinished business, which is 6.1, consider appointment of North Gilliam Health District Board member. So I will go ahead and set this up for folks who have not been following along about what's been happening in Arlington. Go ahead, please.
Can Pat pull his mic a little closer to him?
Yes, it was there, but he moved
Thank
it.
you.
Okay, let me make sure I've got our Zoom up so I can see folks. Okay, so thanks for taking care of them, Sherry.
Well, it was there. and he moved it.
Part of your job.
That's right.
So I just want to sort of catch folks up who may have not been following what's going on with the health board at the North End. During the February 9th, 2020 meeting, the county court had a special meeting during which we heard from members of the North Gilliam County Health District Board requesting that the court fill a vacancy on the board. The district had received 2 letters of interest for the vacancy, and they were deadlocked over the appointment. They had split, I think, 2-2. So folks are understanding why this is coming before the county court. Oregon revised statutes, which is 198.320, says that except as otherwise provided by law, a vacancy in an elected office in the membership of a governing body of the district shall be appointed by the majority of the remaining members of the governing body. If a majority of the membership of the governing body is vacant, or if a majority cannot agree, the vacancy shall be filled promptly by the county court of the county in which the administrative office of the district is located. And so that is why the decision is coming before us. They are deadlocked, and so we are the so during that February 9th meeting, the court agreed that we would advertise for the vacancy and open it back up to whoever wanted to put their name forward. We received 2 letters of interest by the deadline, which was last week, as well as a letter from an individual who was originally considered by the Public Health Board, who has since withdrawn his interest. So the 2 that we received letters from were April Ahmet and Brianna Wilkins. And I asked both of them to be here so that commissioners, you have an opportunity, and just for the record, it was James Metzger who had withdrawn his name. So I asked both candidates, applicants to come see us, so we have an opportunity if you guys have questions. Obviously their letters are in here, but
I think that under the circumstances that I would like to declare a conflict of interest, since Frank Wilkins is my brother-in-law and we have a pretty close relationship,
okay.
that I don't want it to appear that I would be showing any favoritism. So I will not be participating.
Okay. Got it. It's you and I, Pat. How do you want to proceed?
I would just like to hear both candidates. I would say that, as I said I would do, I have had one-on-one meetings with all full board members, all the employees at the clinic, the employee at the EMS, all of the volunteers except for one was simply laid up with some physical problems. And the applicant that told us his letter and one of the other applicants, the other applicant was declined to meet with me because he wasn't meeting with all three. I would like to hear from both of them.
Okay.
So,
All right. So who wants to go first?
Do you want me to start?
Yeah, if you could, just so people can hear you through the Zoom, it's a little bit easier.
Thank you for having us here today.
Of course.
I'm pushing it away too fast. It's a little
It's
uncomfortable.
right up in your face.
Yeah. It's like when you're pulled over by law enforcement. Do you have that on? Anyway,
You wouldn't know.
I wouldn't know. So, our letters were in the packet,
They
so
are
for
in the
people to
packet,
see.
yeah.
Okay, so I don't need to go over. I think some of the questions that, do you want me to talk first, or do you want me just to?
go.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to say that in my letter, I stated that I'm a voice of reason and an independent thinker. And I like to make my own decisions, and I like to find out all the facts and talk to everyone involved. I know that there has been issues at the clinic and with the clinic and the ambulance and the health district recently, but I'm choosing not to speak on that because I don't feel that as a outside person right now. I'm not currently on the board, so I don't have all the information to talk about that. I do want to talk about some of the reasons why I would like to run. My interest in being on the North Gilliam Health District stems from being passionate about my community and the people in it. Having a quadruple bypass in 2019 has increased my awareness of health and safety in our communities and what we need to have. Both the clinic and the ambulance are very, very important, and we need to have those as a community. To me, it's just like having a school. We need to provide those for our citizens. I have traveled to Hermiston twice a week to rehab, cardiac rehab, and I would like to see that offered in the north end of the county. I toured the clinic numerous times, and also obviously the ambulance hall too, but touring the clinic just yesterday, I went through, and there's so much space in there that could be taken advantage of, and opportunities for our community and our residents, and services that we can provide with just a few phone calls. So I think there's lots of opportunity there, and that would increase foot traffic, and it's really a goal that I'm kind of excited about for our future. I've been life flighted, and I've used the service of North Gilliam Medic numerous times, and I can't say enough good things about the service that I've received in the EMTs and the ambulance drivers and everyone that is involved in that. I'm excited to hit the ground running, and do you have any questions for me?
One question that I'll ask both of you is, obviously this has been, I think, a painful time for the community, both sides. And so I'm just curious, in terms of you're stepping into what I think is still a situation that's still resolving itself. I think it's still evolving. And so I'm curious if you've given any thought, or how you would approach sort of what the healing looks like for the community in terms of, you eventually will be hiring a new director, things like that, what that looks like, or how you would approach sort of bringing together sides that have been at odds and sometimes very emotionally at odds throughout this.
Well,
situation.
I thought a lot about this morning on my way here and last night, and at one of the meetings that they had for the ambulance at the very beginning of all of this turmoil that was happening, David Gossett made a really good comment that we live in a small community and we can really come together when a tragedy happens. But boy, we can talk bad about each other behind everybody's back, and we can just tear people apart. And I think what we really have to think about is the people in our community that have great skills to offer and characteristics that we can take advantage of, just like running any sort of business. And your employees that you have, you use those employees to the best of their ability. And I think that there's people in the community that want to see healing. And I think we need to get through this, and however the board decides, that needs to be what's done. I mean, what's done is done, however it turns out, and we need to move forward from this. And I don't really know how to say this, but I don't think throwing money at things is going to get a result, a positive result for the community. But I do think that coming out, working together, getting both sides together, because unfortunately there's two sides, and to work together better. And I'm not, I mean, I got to go through that in my mind, how I would do that. I've thought about it a lot, and or how I would want to do it to move forward. But I think we can do it. I think this is just a time of turmoil. I think we can move forward. I have faith in the people, my neighbors, you know, all the people that live in Arlington. I have faith that we can do this and move forward for the betterment of our community. We have a lot of access to different businesses that are at the north end, and we need to provide services for them. And I think in turn, they can help us with the services that we provide, and all coming together. I'm excited to see the new administrator and moving forward with PR and joining up with different partners in the community like MDT and Child Fatality Review, even though we don't have that, hopefully we don't, but just different community partners that I think would be beneficial to service the patients that come in. So that was a long answer to your question. Sorry, I just have a lot on my mind. I've been thinking about this a lot, so.
It's a big question.
Yes.
Any questions, guys? That was the one I had.
Okay,
Thank you for your time.
thank you. Thank you for your consideration.
Willingness to serve. Come on up.
My name is Grant Wilkins. I think a lot of people here are familiar with me, have known my background, my history. I'm not sure if you have, but in my letter, I've been involved with the school district over 15 years. Chairman, I went through some trying times at the school district. Budget issues, cutting a big budget, administrative turnover, tough times. And I've served on other commissions. I have a strong background for public service. I believe it was 2 times I've ran for the school district. I was voted in with the district. Other times I've lost track of how many times I stepped in to fill vacancies and was appointed. And 2 things I want to state right off the start too is I'm glad Sherry did what she did. I want to state that I've not discussed this with her. Pat reached out to me. I didn't want to discuss it because I wanted to approach the county court. I've made a point not to go out. Campaign's not the really word I want. I've been approached by people, and when I'm approached, I've been asked, some of the current board members, it's sad to me that we're in this situation. I'm very, oh, one other statement I want to say too, before I forget. I want to make sure or state that I'm not doing this to be the voice of my wife. If anybody knows my wife, she has no problem voicing her opinion. I'm not here for that. I meant to say that to start with, sorry. Getting back to this, to me, this is a sad situation that's happened. And I'm incomprehensible where we went in 6 months, 7 months. We had a dinner for the health district at our restaurant. I believe it was early June, had all the emergency services, everybody really strong. Everything seemed to be going good. And all of a sudden, this thing was like a volcano and erupted. And I think people need to ask, why did that happen and how did it happen? And yeah, there's a lot of things being said, but nobody wants to ask tough questions. And to a fault of me, I've been told I come across negative, but I'm brutally honest and straightforward and black and white, to a fault sometimes. I am shocked, with the exception of the police force, no in front of the court. Police force, REM is the most important things that we have. I've saw this community without an emergency service ambulance. I'm like April. I'm a frequent flyer with Life Flight too, unfortunately. We had and we have some very dedicated volunteers that are very good at what they do, committed. And I've gotten involved in this since probably the middle of August. I just haven't jumped in here lately. I haven't been able to attend all the meetings. I've tried to, but I'm very frustrated. I'm very upset. And I'm very emotional and passionate about this because it's so important for our community. When somebody needs EMS 24/7, it needs to be available. And like I say, I don't know everything. I know April's still trying to get information, but the stuff that I have witnessed while trying to attend board meetings, I actually had the chairman call the sheriff's office to have me removed and an elderly lady. And is that right? No, they were playing the COVID card. Is that the right thing to do? No. The city council was meeting in open session. That board, people were trying to get them to meet in open session. And the blinds are closed. I go to leave, the door's locked. The transparency went out the door. And I can bring that back to this district. Like I say, I'm brutally honest, I'm straightforward. I drive my wife crazy because I'm very analytical. I don't just make a decision. And I found myself, when I first started off with the school district, I'm all excited, I'm a new board member, I'm making decisions. And then I caught myself and I'm like, now wait a minute. You're making decisions on what you think. And I'm like, that's not what I'm here for. I'm here to represent the people that put me there and deserve to be their voice. And then that's when I really stepped back and started to look at things. Why should I? What's good? What's bad? What's the best? And that's the main thing that we need to concentrate on. This board is deadlocked for a reason. And I've already spoke too much. I would love to go into more, but it's such a sad day for this community to be in this situation. I put in my letter in September, and the fact that this board has had 4 members resign should speak volumes. There's problems. There's things that are not being done right. And I have the utmost respect for those people. I have the utmost respect for the new board members, for April, anybody that's trying to jump in here and get this thing lined out and in the right direction. And I'm shocked at some of the stuff that's happened. I've had 2 board members that have voted against me twice, even though in open session, 2 of them stated that I was highly qualified. They voted for a person that had no experience. Okay, I understand that. Was it the right thing to do? I disagree. I spoke too much. I want to get this thing righted just as bad as anybody else does. And we've got to, it starts with communication. That's how this whole thing has went south. And like I say, I've witnessed a lot of stuff trying to attend the meetings. I haven't attended all the meetings, but there's a lot of things that have happened that were totally wrong and shouldn't have happened and gone about in the incorrect way. I got a lot more to say, but I think I've said enough.
So I have 2 questions for you, actually. Same one that I asked April about. What does the healing look like? Obviously, you step in, there's 2 board members, as you just indicated, that voted against you joining the board. So, right, having a good working relationship with them, as well as the folks who are upset at the board for past decisions. And I'm just curious if you've given some thought to how that healing looks and how you might approach it.
Absolutely. I mean, I've worked with April and I've disagreed with April on the board, but did we still work together? Yes. Did we difference on our opinion? And that's part of being a good board member, being able to do that. The board members should not agree on everything. And there's a process. And I've even gave suggestions the first time I talked. And it comes down to communication with the public. The minutes aren't posted on a web page for people. And people don't really, when things are going good, there's a lot that nobody's attended. But when the house wants to be packed, there's problems. And it's transparency going forward and being able to work with people. And I can do that. And I've done that before. And nobody likes confrontation. Nobody likes to be in a situation where I can ask the hard questions. And that's difficult to do. But it's part of being a good board member and being able to work with everybody. And this didn't happen overnight. It's not going to get fixed overnight. It takes a long time for the healing to happen. And there's so much focus on things like trying to get the board filled instead of trying to do what's needed for the district. And to me, it's so the nature of it with the situation with our volunteers, the ambulance service, getting that back. And my hat's off to the volunteers. They've done a great job even through all this. I know that was hard for them when they stepped out. I don't blame them. I'm actually surprised that they haven't done it before. And like I say, I can keep an open mind and I can work with people. And I'm not going to be bullied. I'm not going to be pushed. I'm going to be matter of frank. And I'm going to weigh, like I've always done, my decisions, the pros and cons, and do what's right for the community. And I know a lot of people that have supported me in the community and other things that I've done. And I see that happening again. But I've never had to work so hard, because when you're on a board, you make everybody happy, right?
That's been my experience.
It doesn't happen. I've been 6 months. It's 6 months now. And the time and energy is being spent on stuff that it doesn't need to be. We need to get back and drive what's forward. And, you know, this is a big shakeup. They're basically hiring 2 administrators. And, you know, will it work? Change is hard. And like I say, April's a very good candidate, but I'm the one that needs to be put on this board to get it going. And I can do this.
So my second question is, once you're through this initial turmoil, what are your, like, where would you like to see the district say in 10 years? What are things that maybe the district isn't doing now that you'd like to see them doing, or, you know, sort of the longer term picture as well? I mean, obviously you have the most pressing things, but what's the long term picture?
Well, it's just like, you know, it's like even our EMS, they've lost a couple of volunteers because of moving and stuff. And we need to recruit more volunteers. So I'm not real familiar with the health district. I was shocked that I didn't know they couldn't do x-rays. And don't get me wrong, the clinic and the ambulance service is very important to our community. I mean, we have people moving there now that are elderly and an hour away from care. And, you know, I want to see the clinic. And actually, when I was involved in the some of the last meetings over the candidates, or no, for the administrators, I was shocked on how low the numbers were that the clinic actually sees. I want to see that grow. I want to see the clinic prosper. You know, and like I say, I didn't know they couldn't do x-rays. I mean, I'm shocked this day and age. And the health district is very fortunate to be as healthy as they are in the bank account, the SIP funds. I mean, they're very fortunate, and I want to see it grow and expand. And like I say, I have not went over there because emotions are high, and you know, but I don't know. We got to come together some point. I don't know if I answered your question or not.
Put you guys on the spot. You have any questions?
Well, maybe because you kind of brought it out, but the focus, it seems, has been on EMS mainly. When you took the talk to them. I had heard in the past, and I haven't confirmed with it, but you could confirm this, that the past administrator, when you showed previous interest in the board, said you couldn't be on there because you had a conflict of interest. Is that?
No, now state that again.
The past administrator, I guess you had previous interest in being on the board before all this stuff happened.
Past administrator of the
Health district.
Okay.
That you had a conflict of interest and suggested that you not.
I don't know where that's from.
Okay. I just wondered if you confirmed it.
No,
I haven't actually confirmed, but I've heard from several people.
No, I've been asked probably almost 2 years ago. I was asked to run for the board, and after the school district and everything, I'd sworn off running for things again.
Sport, I think.
And you know, but yeah, I don't know where that's coming from. Yeah.
It was just part of the process. I went through some of the conversations.
Yeah, you know, and real quick, and like I say, and then I'll be done. But when I did get appointed back onto the school district at one time, there was a lot going on, and one of the first things I did was go and talk to everybody, all the employees, everybody. And if I'm appointed, that is one thing that's the first thing that I want to do. But I purposely have not done it now because I've tried to stay back, just take stuff in and see where everything's at. But I did that, and I know it made a difference. And like I say, I've had people say, you're crazy to run that long in the district. But it was very rewarding to know that I made a difference. And I know I can do that on this board too.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Hard decision.
Yeah, and I guess what,
Go ahead, Dave.
If I may. When the health district board last tried try to fill the vacancy that you folks will now fill. We had two candidates, and one of them was James Metzger, and one of them was Grant. I voted for Grant. I want to say, and I would hope the word would get back to James, that I encourage him to continue to want to serve his community. But I felt, and I feel, that we have made missteps at the health district, not entirely, but in large part because of lack of experience. And that's why I voted for Grant. If it was another day and I was afforded the opportunity to vote between Grant and April, whose experience I consider relevant and as equal as it might otherwise be, I would be hard pressed to choose between the two. And I want to say this, both of them spoke to the clinic. And I know that the EMS has been getting a lot of spotlight. But I think one of our greater charges is to make our clinic relevant. We can no longer be satisfied with 3 to 10 people in that clinic a day and supported with my tax dollars and yours at services that are perhaps underutilized. Thank you.
Any other, since we've got so many other, yeah, go ahead.
One of the things that I was looking at was special districts, and all the trainings that they offer. And I don't know if the people on the board have taken advantage of those online trainings, but I don't think that they would take that long. One of my first suggestions would be everybody needs to have an ethics training and go through the board training. So just like school board, when we went to, I don't know if you went, Grant, but just, you know, when we did that, it just made a huge difference. So if you just walk onto the board and you haven't done any of your homework, I mean, it doesn't matter what your personality is, and I know you have ethics training, but I'm just saying that, and I'm not talking bad about anybody that's on the board, but I'm just saying in general, if you walk onto a board and you don't provide that knowledge for yourself, you're doing an injustice for your taxpayers and your constituents, and that's what we're working for. So, just like Grant, I'll just say it. I think we both can be a little hard-headed once in a while, but I think that's a good thing. I think that's a good thing in this case, because I think either one of us would do our due diligence in finding out what the problems are, and we know a lot of the problems, but we don't know all the backstory. We don't know all that until you actually get on the board. And so to do that, to make knowledgeable decisions, I think we both would do that. I'm not pulling a woman card saying, wait, it's all men on that board. but sometimes I think that you can, I think that I would be a fresh voice to that. So.
I was going to say I was the best man for the job.
So before, since we had some public comment, that's a good reminder. I wanted to open it up if there's anybody else, either in the audience here or over Zoom, that either had questions or just wanted to offer some feedback to the commissioners and I on the decision. Anybody have anything? Not, what do you think of that?
Well, I started attending the board meetings the minute I was sworn in as a county commissioner. I've been to almost all of them, if not all of them. And I had some extreme concerns about the clinic a couple of years ago and what's going on at the clinic. So that was kind of some of my focus when I started attending the board meetings. And one thing I felt like in the North End Clinic is because 84 is there, it's 45 minutes in either direction. It really kind of had a perception of we really don't care if they get on the freeway and go. I mean, we'll take them if they come in, but, you know, if they want to go, that's fine. And so I've had a little trouble swallowing that pill that we don't do some. So it's, I think, important that we figure out how to market that clinic and get the services in that will really benefit the community. And the interesting thing about the research that I've done, which has been extensive, and I'm not so sure, but what I don't have a better grasp on the whole picture than anybody else in the county, because I've done a lot of work on it, is that everyone's talking about the differences. And when I have had individual discussions with people on both sides of this sensitive subject, it's amazing how close they really are together and how much they think alike about a lot of it. There's some differences for sure, but they're not as far apart as most people want to say or think. And so, you know, for me, I'm comfortable with my decision, and I would move to appoint April Emont to the North County Health District Board effective.
I will second that. It's been moved and seconded that we appoint April next to the North Gilliam Health District Board. Is there further discussion? What I want to say is, Grant, I want you to take this though as an encouragement that you keep after it, because I would take either of you, honestly. I think you both would be important voices at that table. And so I don't know what the current board members, how many of them are going to stick around and for how long, but I hope if another opening comes up that you are there, because I am a realist. I know Pat and I need to agree, and we need to get somebody appointed. So if he has a preference, I just want to state for the record that I would have taken either of you. I think you're both in your own rights bring important voices and experience. So I just want to put but I am recognizing that Pat and I can't really split, or we're going to be, we're going to have a problem. So, so with that, I would call for the vote. And all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? And Commissioner Wilkins abstains for her conflict. All right, April, you've been appointed. Thank you, Grant.
Thank you both.
You'll be great.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Yeah. I know that.
Godspeed, April. You got a big job.
Take my blood pressure.
Okay, let's move on to 6.2, which is consider appointment of Holly Winslow as Public Health Administrator effective July 1, 2022. This is some more housekeeping that we're doing. We're just moving right along on our public health transition. So just to recap, back on February 2nd, we approved the position description for Public Health Administrator, and we also requested that OHA allow us to have that position be less than full-time. We had set it at 0.1 FTE. On February 9th, we heard right back from them. They notified us that they had approved the request. So the next step is to formally appoint Holly and then notify OHA that she's been appointed. And so I'll end up sending a letter to them. And then they also want to see Holly's resume to make sure that she meets their expectations in terms of experience. So I don't think she has to go through a job interview, I think, but we have to jump through a few more hoops. So what I need from you today is just a motion. So I've got something on the record saying that she's formally been appointed so that we can take care of the
Can we do that without them reviewing the resume?
Yes. The Director of Public Health, in our letter to requesting that this be a 0.1, we let them know who we were intending to appoint, that it would be Holly, and they've been working with Holly on a lot of the transitions. So she's a known entity to them. This is mostly just a, I don't, there's probably something in statute or rules that says that OHA needs to have it. So it's a formality, but I don't anticipate they'll say that we need to find another candidate, if that's what you're asking.
Well, I thought that we had that. Didn't we have a letter that said
Yeah,
from the director of OHA that they were looking forward to working with Holly.
Yes.
So to me, that was an endorsement.
yeah.
I move to appoint Holly Winslow to the position of Public Health Administrator effective July 1st, 2022.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we appoint Holly Winslow to the position of Public Health Administrator effective July 1, 2022. Is there further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, Ally.
You're officially.
You are official. Okay, congratulations. No backing out now. Let's move on. We'll just stick right to public health and move into review Gilliam County Public Health Program Elements Implementation Plan. So just to sort of recap, OHA is having us go through what I would say is a very thorough process of going through each program element for that is public health sort of service and meeting with staff from OHA to talk about what their expectations are by statute and our federal partners in some cases. And then they have asked us to submit a plan by March 18th that outlines in sort of broad strokes how we're going to provide each of those services. And I think I had mentioned before that there were some programs, particularly WIC, that has a lot of hoops to jump through. And so I think part of this is OHA just making sure that we are going in eyes wide open on what expectations are. So I wanted to at least kind of provide an overview of where we think we're going on the implementation of each of the elements so that you have a sense so you're not surprised. And I think we'll actually try to put it in writing and get a formal approval from you on the 16th, which will still give time to submit it and all that kind of stuff. But I just wanted to get your take on, are we headed in the right direction? So there are no surprises. So I don't know, I mean, for the most part, and you guys correct me if I misstate, but I think the intention from what we've seen so far is that we would be providing all of the same program elements that NCPHD is currently providing, correct? As a county. That all of the ones by law, which we are able to delegate, except for the environmental services, we would be subcontracting with the health district. Am I correct on that? So WIC, all of those things.
So the county delegates.
Yeah. Yep. So we sign the contract with OHA and then we sign the subcontract with whoever is going to provide the service. So the health district would be providing the vast majority of the services except for environmental health, which we brought up previously. I think we're still waiting to hear back from Umatilla County. Am I right on, or have you heard back from them?
Yes, so I followed up with him last week. It might have been 2 weeks ago. I should have checked my emails. And he said they were putting their plan together and would have it to us soon. There was no specified date, but soon. What has also come to light early this week, Monday, we heard from Grant County and their environmental health specialist had just got word that they are losing Malheur County and they are interested in helping us with our environmental health services if we are open to that. So we are planning on meeting with him and Kimberly. They're gonna provide us with some dates and what that would look like perhaps with Grant County too. So now it looks like we've got a couple options in our pocket, which I think is really great. We also reached out to NCPHD, which Pat had asked us to do at the last meeting. And I had Pat's information. He was in on that email as well. And they seemed pretty clear that they were not interested in contracting potentially that service with us. So I think we're kind of left with Umatilla and Grant County and see where that goes. But
do you have any feeling of cost? Is it going to be in line with your initial cost? You thought about in the feasibility study to get any feedback along those lines?
We have not gotten any feedback from Umatilla County on what their costs would look like. You know, when we talked to him months ago, he gave us an idea of what it looked like with Morrow County and said, you know, based on Gilliam County numbers versus Morrow County numbers, we estimated it to be like a third of the cost of what Morrow County was. So there was kind of a top line charge to help cover their, I believe it was their transportation fees coming back and forth. And then they also collect the licensure fees too. In our initial discussions with Grant County, they did not charge counties a base fee. They only collected the licensure fees. Whether that changes between then and now, I don't know that yet. But I think we'll be meeting with them very shortly. So they were pretty excited that we had not made a decision yet.
So what will be before the court, I anticipate on the 16th? I am assuming there is no objections to having the health district do all of the other components. If Polly feels like they're up to it, that you guys feel confident doing that. So I would anticipate the 16th would be about deciding between those two potential subcontractors on environmental health. The other issue that I want to put on the record that we're going to need to maybe navigate, that is a change, is that currently the some of the prevention dollars that we have coming through the county are being subcontracted out to CCS. There's some alcohol and drug prevention. Am I right on that?
Yes.
And I will say that there has been significant discussion even prior to moving public health back about whether we needed to look at how those prevention dollars are being spent and whether there are some, because we, in particularly in this courthouse, have several staff members who are doing prevention work in schools, our juvenile department and sheriff's office. If we need to look at that. And so what I would suggest is I am planning on having a conversation with Kimberly Lindsay offline just to say, hey, we need to make a decision on what we're going to do with prevention. But that is the other decision that we need to make, is whether those prevention dollars will stay with CCS, which I think obviously Kimberly is going to advocate for. But I do think even beyond, I know that it would be beneficial to have them go through the district, but I also know there's some local voices inside the courthouse and other places who have been advocating for us to look at it for a while. And so that I would anticipate will also be on the 16th for us to make a decision.
Prevention include treatment, or is that prior to?
So my understanding of what is currently happening, and like I have a very basic concept, so I might need Kimberly to actually explain this more in depth. But my understanding is that we have a subcontract right now with CCS. So where most of our public health dollars go there, this little piece got carved out and is a subcontract that we run through to Kimberly. I think the way that they handle it is that Tia Devon is the coordinator for multiple counties. And my understanding is that she is sort of a liaison to our school districts for prevention related curriculum. That she's not actually in the schools delivering that it's an access to curriculum more than an actual her maybe being a teaching resource in the schools. That's my understanding of how it's worked. And I think the argument has been, could we use those prevention dollars to do more hands-on and actually provide the schools with people? I mean, not necessarily give it to but you know, having our juvenile in there, having sheriff's office, maybe having some of the health district folks coming in, talking about different things. Would that money be better spent rather than just handing the schools curriculum and having them have to figure out how to staff and deliver it, if we could use some of that money towards more hands-on efforts with the school districts and other populations. So that has been the argument for why we need to reconsider how those prevention dollars are being spent.
It reminds me of high school a long time ago when we brought a state cop in to talk to us. And he tried to convince me I didn't know good beer from bad beer.
So can I speak to a little bit about this?
Yeah, of course, Holly, go ahead.
So According to the state, this is the words of the state. If Gilliam County were to become a separate LPHA, the ADPEP agreement would be included as a program element within the public health IDA between OHA and Gilliam County. So they're the ones who brought this to the surface and saying that because we're doing local public health, they would like it to be part of that. And just to be transparent, we're talking about a very substantial amount of money. And we are moving forward with that program element and putting a plan together for implementing that program element. And it would fit in very well with everything else that we're doing with public health, and especially with, I mean, there's the tobacco prevention and all that also.
And I do think, I mean, I have not surveyed our superintendents to see how their feelings on how the prevention dollars have worked, but I could see and buy into the notion that having those dollars sort of based here locally at the clinic probably enables more coordination between the different entities that are doing prevention work. Just because I think having a coordinator that's, you know, not based here, that's coordinating for multiple counties, I think just by that very nature, it's probably less coordinated. And so I could totally see a scenario where, you know, Amy and Gary are regularly in contact with Holly and Daleen about here's what we're working on. Can we leverage funds on this particular thing? Or, you know, talking to some of the counselors who are seeing certain things pop up with kids as they come through, and being able to really work more collaboratively than I think probably has been happening, just by virtue of how it's been set up. Nothing against Tia, I think, but I just, that's been the argument, and I can see where that, I think there's some validity to that.
Yeah, and it just does, it seems, you know, it's gonna fit in good because we will be partnering and coordinating with both schools, with both clinics, the cities.
That makes sense.
It just, you know, it won't be all towards the school, but it will, you know, we'll do an assessment of each community and see, get ideas and try to figure out where we can best put those dollars.
But I did want to flag you for that, with that, and I will, I mean, my intention is to have a follow-up conversation with Kimberly prior to our next meeting, just to let her know that that's up for discussion, and that the proposal would be that those funds go to the health district instead. But I wanted to flag that so that you have some time to think about and talk to anybody that you may want to touch base with prior. If you want to talk to the superintendents, for instance, that might be a good place to reach out and just ask how that's looked in practice. So I think those are the major decision points.
Yeah, the only other thing I wanted to bring up, which I'm hoping you'll go along with this, it's been a really long haul with all these meetings and the program elements. And we've actually been working with a consultant that the state hired also. We are at a point where we are probably 95% ready to submit our preliminary plans to the state way before the deadline. And so we were wanting to go ahead and submit those so they had a chance to look and then come back if we had to make any changes. So you had said that maybe you wanted to review those at the 16th meeting, but I would hope that you would agree that we could go ahead and submit them to the state.
I would think it'd be a good idea to submit it to the state. And I'll just throw out there that Shelley Campbell contacted me because OHA has encouraged her to help us where we can. And so just because of that comment there, because there's some negative, I feel some negative resistance to do that. And OHA's asked them to be sure they're on board to help us through the transition. And I think Shelley's probably on there. She can speak to that too, that they're willing to help wherever we can, but a review by the state would make sure that we didn't have inadequacies that they couldn't help us with.
Exactly, and we kind of need that to get done before we even know, you know, can move forward, because then we have to do
a very specific plan and budget for every program element. So this is just a preliminary step, and time's going by, we're already in March, and I would like to get that part done and be able to move forward.
The sooner we get there, we're not bumping up against deadlines and causing a panic.
Yeah, I mean, my viewpoint is that I think if we're on board with the general concept of who's gonna be subcontracting to what, and I think our intention has been from the beginning that we wanted to partner with the health district. I feel comfortable with Holly being able to assess how they're going to tackle each of those requirements without us needing to get, and because some of them are very,
Yeah.
you know, we're gonna find the dietitian that has the WIC training and, you know, those kinds of things. And I'm not sure the process benefits from us necessarily weighing in. I think Holly's competent to figure out how that's gonna actually look. So for me, I would feel confident saying for the things in particular that don't need a decision point in terms of like the environmental stuff, that I would feel confident having them submit. And then for the, I think for the prevention, I would say if you have it ready, maybe if you guys are comfortable, at least have them submit and get some feedback from OHA. We can always change it before the 18th, but I do think formally we need to have a discussion with Kimberly as a court on the 16th about if we're going to move those dollars, having that discussion with her in a public forum.
So let me hold that program element up and send the other ones. Is that what you're saying?
Do you want to hold up prevention, or do you want to just?
Why not have them review it and
Right.
then move on from there? You know,
Get their feedback.
but it's not gonna hurt for them to review it.
No, and they're getting in crunch time also with budget and reviewing every local public health authorities plans and stuff.
So I think go ahead and submit the prevention as well. And then if something goes sideways between now and then, we could always circle back with OHA on that one. But it sounds like, at least on first blush, that the general leaning is that we would be supportive of having that go through the district.
The one thing I would say about North Central Public Health is I am on board and uncomfortable in that it's awkward, because I don't feel like I'm in a position that I should be making any decisions on the board for North Central going forward. So I will abstain from most of what happens, but as a liaison, if there are things that come up between them, I'm there, and that's the main reason I think it's important to stay on there as we go through the transition there. If there's some requests we have from me, the funnel through me, and I can request it through the board.
Sure. Yeah, no, and then it seems like most of the data and the information the state has been able to provide because it's all centralized. So, but I think as we move forward, there will be specific things that we are going to need from North Central. But as of right now, I don't really know what those are.
So that's basically where we are for 6.4 as well, which is the public transition update. I think we're done with all of our meetings. Am I right?
Yes,
Do we have one more?
We had one today that we asked to reschedule because we wanted to be here. It was during this time. And it's on COVID, which we have really not jumped into that because it's just ever changing. And we wouldn't even really know. And we don't know how much funds are left. So that's not something that we're really focused on.
Got it. Okay, and then there's a few other sort of administrative decisions that Holly and I will kind of work through that the state has sort of laid out that they need some answers from us. If there are things that we need to vote on, I'll bring back. But I think most of them are going to be pretty straightforward, just figuring out logistics of how things work. We may have some things like, I know we need to have a policy for subcontractors that comes before the court. So that will be coming at some point before July 1. We'll need to have that in place. And
Let me give them an ordinance for fee schedule. There's little
things like that will continue to sort of pop up. But really, once the plan is approved, what I am anticipating is that we will the legal beagles over at DOJ will then put together the IGAs for us to actually take ownership of those elements. And then we will also at that point notify OHA that we are subcontracting out, and then requesting permission for that. And then they will have to approve all the subcontracts to actually formally delegate people's responsibilities. But I think we're on track. Holly and Daleen have been working really hard on this, and I've been listening in, and they've been tracking all of these elements. So it's going to be a heavy lift, but I still think we're on track to get it done. So I would anticipate for the 16th that, and maybe this is something, Daleen, for you, if we can push Umatilla and Grant County to get us a proposal by like this time next week, that would be ideal. And then I can put it in the packet and the court can make a decision between the two options.
That's a big piece.
Yeah. And then we can wrap up the environmental one as well at that point. And then I think I will have a discussion with Kimberly about the prevention dollars and just see where she is. She may want to come to the court and present why she thinks that would be a bad idea to take it away from CCS, or she might just say, you know what, we'll support you in however you want. So is it your intention, if she is okay of letting that go, do you want prevention to be up as a discussion, or do you feel comfortable? How would you like me to handle prevention?
I'm comfortable if we move it, if you know, there's a good reason not to that I don't know today.
Okay.
I think bringing
I'm
it internally is
better.
much better than to have people from the outside.
And it doesn't mean that
We
we
know our
wouldn't
people better,
turn around and work with CCS.
right?
If there would be a partner and, you know, so yeah, there's future discussions there.
Yeah, they might have some resources that
Definitely.
Okay, so what I will do is I will have a follow-up conversation with Kimberly, and unless she raises strong objections and asks to come talk to us, I think we will just sort of sign on to the idea that that would be handled in-house and subcontracted out to the district as well. Okay, as usual, we'll keep it on the agenda until July 1. Thank you guys for all your work, and yeah, we're gonna do it. All right, let's tackle this next one because I think it's pretty straightforward. And then do you guys need a little break, or how are you doing?
I'm okay.
I'm okay.
Okay, I'm just checking in.
I know
I
that's
had
old
2
people.
coffee cups, and so I'm just
No,
acutely
I'm
aware
coffee today, I'm good.
of when breaks may be necessary. Okay, let's move on to 6.5, which is consider approval of bid for installing wiring and equipment at road department shop. Kelly.
Hey. Sorry, I'm gonna sit back a little because that camera was really in the other people's faces. So I'm just gonna stay back here.
Up close and personal.
So we updated our phone system back at, I think it was the very end of October. And at the road department, we installed the phones in the upstairs offices, and those are working pretty good. We have an internet issue, but we'll tackle that next. The phones downstairs, we need to install some wiring from the upstairs to the downstairs because we don't use regular phone lines anymore. We're using like internet cables now. So we needed to get that wiring done. I had Dry Canyon come out and give me a bid for that. They've done a lot of business. They wired this building actually. And they came out, they did a walkthrough, they got me a bid. It was just over $16,000. So I went, oh, we're going to need to get a couple more bids. I didn't have any idea what kind of dollar range we were going to be in. So I contacted also Shelco Electric and Garner Electric. There's not a lot of low voltage electric contractors around here. Garner Electric said they could not take a job this far out. I think they were based in the Bend area. And so they declined to submit a bid. And Shelco, I had been playing phone tag with for about a month. and have not heard back from them since the end of December. The guy kept telling me, oh, we'll schedule it. I'll call you back next week. I'll call you back in 2 weeks. Let's get it done after the first of the year. And they couldn't ever make time to come out here. So I'm hoping we can consider that a decline to submit a third bid.
I think,
I also am not sure that I would accept a bid from somebody who is.
They may not come back and do the job.
Yeah, exactly.
Makes you wonder.
Yeah. So, my recommendation then would be to, accept the bid from Dry Canyon Communications. Do you
And
have
the
any-
funds, I took it out of your motion language, but remind me where the funds are gonna come from, or do you remember?
Oh, the technology hardware line item.
So we have money, fiscal year money for it?
Yeah.
I'm always uncomfortable going with one bid.
And if you can't get more, what do you do?
Yeah.
So we just contacted three, and if the percentage only three fairly locally.
So Dry Canyon is in the Bend area. Garner was in the Bend area. Shelco's in Hermiston,
Hermiston.
Pendleton area, Hermiston.
There's another company up there too, but I can't think of the name.
There were a couple others. I kind of looked through their websites and judged which ones I thought might be a good choice based on their credentials and websites, but we could
I mean,
contact. the
Shovel's
people.
huge, but they're really tied heavily into irrigation projects and stuff in that area. Yeah.
And you say Dry Canyon had done the courthouse.
Yeah, they did the courthouse
How-
and they've
how-
done,
Were they in a bid situation, they did the courthouse before, do you remember?
oh, I'm sure they were. It was the
Yeah.
whole building. It had to be a
They
huge
must have been-
project.
They must
Yeah.
have been comparable on that.
Yeah.
Do we have a motion? What do you guys think?
Needs to be done.
Then you better make the motion.
Okay, I will. I
Sure,
move
I'll do
to
it.
approve the bid for wiring the road department shop from Dry Canyon Communications LLC in the amount of $16,254 even.
I will second it hesitantly because it's only one bid and I don't like it.
Duly
Good for
noted.
you.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the bid for wiring the road department shop from Dry Canyon Communications LLC in the amount of $16,254. Is there further discussion? All those in favor?
I
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank
With
you.
Commissioner
Yes, thank you
Shannon's
for your work.
note.
I understand the
One-
hesitancy.
On his two bid preference.
All right, thank you.
2 to 3.
Thanks,
So
Kelly.
let's See what the cost is. but
Okay, let's
we
move
moved on.
on to 7.1, first reading of ordinance number 2022-02, assuming the administration of enforcement of the building inspection program, including all Oregon specially codes. So to recap, back in 2020, we entered into an IGA with the city of Boardman and state of Oregon for our building codes services, which was great. And I understand it's been going really smoothly with Glenn as the building inspector, operating under the no news is good news model. However, when submitting our renewal documents to state building codes in January for our program, Glenn, who is our building official, discovered that in this whole transition that we had not yet passed the ordinance that state law requires us to do for assuming responsibility of the building codes. So the state said, that's fine, we'll give you some extra time to get your ordinance passed. And so what is before you now is a draft ordinance that Glenn put together, presumably based on what the city uses and maybe, I assume maybe Morrow County has a similar setup. Lori Cooper, who's our legal counsel, has reviewed it, didn't have any concerns with it. And so if you guys are okay with it, we would do the first reading today, and then second reading would be at the next meeting on the 16th with final adoption. And then by state law would become effective 90 days after adoption. So, but the state's okay with that timeline. It's really just a formality. I asked them because they are a party to the IGA. Why didn't the IGA basically say that we were taking responsibility? And they said,
Yes, but technically state law actually requires an ordinance as the instrument. And so we neglected that because I thought the IGA would be a sufficient document. So, yeah, so if there's no objection, we would move forward with the first.
Just a question, didn't really have that much difference. Lori Cooper, she's the new attorney that started like in July, is that correct?
Yes.
Just-
Yeah, so Christy went to DOJ and depending on the ask, you know, if it's labor, it's still Diana.
Right.
And we have some other contacts that have some specialties there, but Lori's our main point of contact now.
Okay. So I'm moved to have the first reading of ordinance number 2022-02 by title only.
A second.
It's been moved and seconded to have the first reading of ordinance number 2022-02 by title only. Is there further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Ordinance number 2022-02 in the County Court of the State of Oregon in and for the County of Gilliam in the matter of assuming the administration and enforcement of the building inspection program, including all Oregon specialty codes.
I move to accept the first reading of ordinance number 2022-02 by title only.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we accept the first reading of ordinance number 2022-02 by title only. Is there further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, let's move on to 7.2, discussion regarding Burns Park fees and length of stay policies. Come on up, Daryl. Do you want me to give an overview or do you want to tackle it?
Oh, it doesn't matter. I can.
Go for it.
This is, my name is Daryl Hoteling and I work for the Maintenance and Parks Department. And today I'd like to have you consider some discussions I've been wanting to bring to the county court for a while. I did do a study. You've got page 2, I think there, and I did an average. Currently, we have a daily fee and a monthly. And I'm asking you to think about going to just a 2-week maximum stay and to add a weekly amount. So we'd go to daily and weekly. We've had a lot of problems in the past with getting tenants out or having them pay. Other parks that are just for recreational use, other county parks also do a maximum of 14 days and then have to be gone for 10 days and we come back again, I guess, to get away from the same issue that we've been having. So we're looking for you to look at the 2-week maximum that I'm recommending, also the updating of prices, and also for the Golden Tag Veteran Disability Discount that was in that page 3 and 4, if when you read the packet. So how do we want to start?
Okay, so let's maybe start with the 2 weeks. You want to do that first?
Yeah, let's have a discussion.
I mean, and I think maybe Nathan and even Judge Patno might have some thoughts on, I don't know if you on tenant stuff, but obviously the law, once somebody is there on the 15th day, you sort of enter into a whole new realm of what you can and cannot do in terms of asking folks to leave and all of that. And I think we're providing a valuable service to people who are coming through, but I don't know that Burns Park was ever intended as a long-term stay. You know, I mean, it's for folks who are coming through to enjoy recreation or camping at the fair or whatever it may be, other events that are going on. And so to me, it seems like this is an easy way for us to avoid getting into the legal ramifications of what happens on day 15. And especially if we're able to say, you know, there's a 14-day stay and then you have to be gone for a certain period and you come back. And that to me, I think makes some sense. And I also it's noted, Daryl noted it in here, but I think it's important to put on the record that I think we could, if we had, say, a construction crew in that was a longer term thing and the court wanted to have sort of a side agreement with that, I don't think that this would preclude us from saying, okay, we have a special circumstance, we have a large, crew coming in for a wind or an energy project or, whatever that may be, fiber we've had up there. and being able to modify that to facilitate work crews that are coming in, I think. But just for the general public, to me, this seems cleaner, easier for Daryl to manage, easier for the sheriff's department to manage if we have a problem, all of those things. So that would be
I don't think the intention is ever for it.
Yeah, but we're not big enough to have a summer camp host there or anything, so it makes a lot different.
Couple of questions.
Mm-hmm.
Because the Port of Arlington allows long-term camping.
Mm-hmm.
They keep a few spots open so they have some spots available for travelers, but and I understand the environment in Oregon just sucks right now for housing and everything else. And it's caused problems. I get that. But did you talk to anybody at the port? Have there ever any trouble with people?
I didn't talk to the port about having people trouble like that, no, just for the pricing.
And we've had trouble here.
We have, trying to get people out or to pay. Nathan, you've had to deal with that because you had those financial.
So basically what happens is after 15 days, you get in a landlord-tenant relationship. So you're essentially renting the space to them. And so the only way I can actually get them to leave if they haven't paid is I have to go to lawyers, get a document, and I have to go to the justice of the peace. The justice of the peace has to order them out, and the sheriff has to go remove them. It's not just simply, hey, you didn't pay, you're stealing services.
So is it like a complete eviction?
Yeah. Yeah, and so really what it comes down to is the expense of doing that is the time is way in excess of anything we'd ever collect in rent. And I'm okay with if the courts wants long-term stays, I don't see why they couldn't permit on a as needed basis. But we've had some issues, and I've gone and banged on the trailer, you guys owe this much, we keep tallying. We've got collected most of it, but really our hands are kind of tied once you get past that 15 days.
And our policy in the past too, say we have people that call already for fair or 4th of July, the big ones. So they have their spots for their families or whatever. And then you have somebody wanting to come in monthly. It was really hard on us to try to figure out. And so what I eventually did was just offered those 2 spots closest to the fairgrounds that just going to be for potential long-term. It's just hard to manage that way when you get people.
I was in a motel in Redmond last night before last, and there was a guy in there, his house burnt down. He was in a motel, he didn't have any insurance, and they're building a house for him. It's going to take 8 months, and I think we have that going on in Oregon today, and how do you accommodate that? And RV parks are obviously something that can work for some temporary long-term housing, and we have no housing,
Right.
I've sit last night and I watched 50 some rigs come out of the solar farm and hit the freeway.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're a business person in Arlington, it sucks the guts out of you to see that happen. So I'm a little more willing in the typical environment we're in today to think, boy, do we want to do this.
But are trailer parks all full? I don't see Shane Trailer Park has a lot of empty spaces, so.
And that was another thing you had on here,
Why?
Cottonwood Trailer Park, where's that at?
That's Cottonwood State Park.
Oh, okay.
I was just comparing as much as I could.
But just in Gilliam County, you don't have 3 of the trailer parks in Gilliam County in your assessment. And I don't know where they're priced at, but you do have the highest priced one in there. Port.
But we're not really a trailer park either.
No, we're not.
No, and I get
We're
that. I just think
short-term RV park.
we're in a kind of a spot right now.
And I could speak that when we had somebody that had a situation like that and didn't have housing, was a resident here in the county, and yeah, they stayed up there for an extended period of
I don't
time.
have a real problem with
But
it
I
as
think
long
the
as
court
we've got a
could-
process to allow that to happen if we
Well,
think
I
it
think
makes
we
sense.
do, yeah. I think it's something we just reevaluate.
So maybe
As the need arises.
maybe what we could do is even have Daryl work on say a request form that somebody who may be in that circumstance, even as a one-off individual. I mean, I would think with a big project coming in where maybe we know that we're going to need workforce housing, that may be something we're just dealing with the company directly on, hey, we can open up a certain number of spots, but we had an emergency or needed to provide temporary
You may
housing.
get into a situation where someone wants to build a house in town, but they got a job here. Stay here, you know, and,
But that's something that we can assess, and we've left ourselves
well,
open
I
to
just
that.
don't want to tie this to
Yeah,
construction because it's.
No, no. no,
The
no,
city
that's
one
just an
isn't,
example.
isn't full yet, but they can go there
Not city
first.
policy.
They don't like it as well, the Condon. But we had problems with past courts before that we got in trouble because we weren't charging enough. We had to be same or more than them, and they even tried to do a proposal with us saying we couldn't have any campers at all until they're completely full. I didn't, of course, that's ridiculous, but that's kind of the mentality over there. So I know they have spaces, but yeah.
So why don't Daryl and I can work together to come up and sort of outline what a process would look like for somebody who is requesting to stay longer than the 14 days. And I'm thinking it would be like sort of a form, then could just come before the courts, just get the court's consent that we would allow that sort of on a one-off kind of thing, so that we're making clear that it's on a case-by-case basis, depending on the circumstances. And then,
And that no other spaces are available. That's my thinking. If there's nothing else available, then we can make that concession.
if the other parks are full, is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Does that sound
Reasonable.
reasonable?
Yes.
Okay. How about, let's move on to the prices, adding the weekly rate. There's, as Daryl noted, the rate comparison in there. Which our daily rate would stay the same as what's at the Condon RV Park. The weekly rate would be slightly more, so the Condon RV Park could bump up theirs if they wanted to. I don't know how do you guys feel about keeping the daily rate at 30, or are you interested in moving that up?
Oh, I think 30 is fine.
I think that's reasonable.
I do think that, I mean, as long as we know we're including the potential long-term at the 400 and 500, I think that's right too, but that's probably reasonable.
Okay. And then what about 175 for the weekly rate? I mean, I will say, I think our privately owned ones do appreciate if we are a little bit above them, because that gives them some wiggle room to adjust to inflation and other things without pricing themselves out of the market. So,
Yeah.
Yeah, those prices look good.
175 looks reasonable to me. I feel
It's comparable. Or it should be other.
The third question is honoring Golden Tag and veteran disability discounts. Can you, Daryl, maybe walk the commissioners through what those are?
Yeah,
What they look like?
the Oregon State Parks have to abide by it. They give the veterans, like I printed out for you. But county and city parks don't have to, but quite a few of them have enacted the same policy. So that's kind of why I printed out a couple for you to see what other people do. I've had a lot of people, well, not a lot, but from time to time, ask me if we honor and you know, at the time we didn't have it in place, so I couldn't. But I've always wanted to bring it to the court and see what the court thought about it.
So what is
What is, they
kind of
give,
discount is that?
it's quite a bit of discount. That's why this other one county that I've been to did it like half of the discount, or like when I go to the, because I have the discount. So if I go to like the federal, like Glacier National Park, I get half price of whatever the normal people are. So, but the state benefits of having this is that in one calendar month, you can stay 10 nights at a park for free, basically. 10 nights at a time. They can't go 10 nights at one park and live a whole year like that, but you can do 10 nights in a park. So
So if it isn't a,
and not that many people have them, but it's a nice benefit for the
Right.
disabled veterans.
Yeah, so to be clear, it's just for, at least the state parks one says that it's US veterans with any level of a service-connected disability or active duty US military on official leave.
yeah, if you think that's something that isn't. a
And
county
when they
nightmare,
fill out their form, just like I do at other state parks, they put their permit number, they have a card. Everybody should have a card or something in their car, so.
It's not a big deal.
Nathan from an administration collections, not a problem.
Just need to know how much to collect.
Right?
Thoughts on that approach?
It's something we should honor.
So we're gonna honor the state, is that what you're saying?
You could either mirror what the state does, which, or you could look at, what was this other example, Clackamas County?
Yeah, free parking in all Clackamas County parks. That's special.
Free camping for up to 10 nights in a calendar month. Or you could just enact your own and say, hey, you can have 3 nights free or whatever you want to do, really.
So what I suggest, maybe for this one, if you guys in general think that this is a good idea, I think that we probably want to spell this out in an actual policy so that if there is a situation, somebody, for instance, staying on the 15th day, staff has policy to point to that says this is what the court has enacted. So what I'd like to do is maybe work with Daryl to capture that into an actual policy. And if you'd like us to, we can take a stab at the special pass and at least put some language so you can tinker with it if you want to adjust percentages or days or whatever. The other 2 pieces on here, I don't, or one piece really, I guess, because the 6th one is just letting me know that we'll, how we're gonna update the public once these are put in place. I don't know if we want to tackle this now or if we want to maybe think about this closer to the actual season, but with the new propane heater that was installed in the bathrooms, we are able to be open year round.
So we're closed right now because we have a date that we're gonna open up for seasonal.
Right.
If we're ready, we probably ought to open up.
Yeah, so we could, I think the concern is really just snow removal during the winter. And so, I mean, what we could look at doing is maybe having a sort of a sliding opening rather than saying we're open all winter, maybe leave a little bit more discretion to opening up early if say we have an early spring. Or we could tackle maybe later in the year whether we want to stay open over the winter if we felt like there was a need for that. Or another option might be that if somebody, say, for instance, the person who may be building a home that needs a temporary space and that happens to be over the winter, because they're waiting for building season to open up. I mean, maybe we could do a case by case on that as well. So there are a couple of options there, but I wanted to get a sense from you. Is that something that you want to think about or something that you want to discuss today or for, I mean,
I'm fine with opening up with the rates that are in this
Yeah,
briefing.
if we're able to be open year round, I don't know why we shouldn't do that.
Okay.
That's how I do that.
okay. Pat,
Because I like to use that map.
do you,
You're here.
Pat, do you want to circle back with Dewey and just make sure, like, what does it look like for snow removal? And make sure that he doesn't have a huge amount of heartburn over that. Like maybe it is a case by case and, or he wants
Yeah, the
to,
year we had the fiber people in, they had their own equipment and they cleared, and it was a tough winter too, and they cleared everything. We got lucky on that one, but not everybody's gonna have their own equipment.
okay. So Pat will follow up with Dewey just to make sure there's no heartburn at the road department. Okay, so in terms of next steps, I think generally we can move forward with this idea of 14 days and the rate increases that are coming, but I'd like to actually memorialize that. And so Daryl and I can work together and actually get this in writing so that we can formally vote on it. But I think in a general, if somebody's calling, making reservations, say for April, I think you can say we have a 14-day minimum or maximum, and you know, those things that we laid out today.
Okay, great. Thank you. You bet. Any more questions?
I don't have any.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right.
You bet.
Thanks, Daryl. Okay. Let's move on. What are you guys doing? Good? Are we going to the next one? All right, 7.3 is consider approval of court administrator, justice court position description, and salary schedule and reclassification of administrative assistant justice court position. So I'll give you guys plenty of time if you want to chime in, or I'm happy to take it too. You guys are already aware of this, I think, because both Leona and Judge Patno came in, saw us during public comment a couple of meetings back. But just for the record, so folks know why this is coming up and sort of the basis of this. Part of the collective bargaining agreement allows an employee, if they believe that they have substantial duties that have not been sort of captured in their job description, that has either been added or not included originally, that they are able to request the county look at the classification of both the position description and whether the pay rate is appropriate for that classification. So back in November, we received a request from Leona Foster via the union rep, who is Brenda Johnson, requesting that the court go through the reclassification review for Leona's position. So the request is really based on her current job description, which was approved back in 2018, really kind of missing several key duties that and essential functions that I think Leona felt would, if they had been included, result in a higher pay rate. And so back in February, I met with Judge Patno and had a discussion about it. And I also met with Leona to just walk through her job description over Zoom, which was a fun experience. And based on those discussions and sort of my understanding of some of her essential functions, and as you know in the packet, I do agree. I think that the administrative assistant is missing several of those key functions. And I think if those are corrected by the court, you guys agree that that would justify a reclassification. So what you have before you is both a red line and a clean copy of proposed changes to the position description. The request, and Judge Patno, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think she concurred that we felt that the job title was better as court administrator rather than administrative assistant. In part, I mean, where I felt that was justified is when I asked Leona, if Judge Patno is out of the office, who decides how this gets handled? And that is her call. And so to me, you know, that is a signal of more authority and than just taking whatever Judge Patno says and doing it. There's more agency, I think, that she's exercising. So I think that's an appropriate title adjustment. The salary schedule in here is based on comparables that I collected from the Sherman Justice Court, the Gilliam County Circuit Court. I also emailed you, because they came in after the packet went out yesterday, comparables that came in from Morrow and Grant County. And as I'm sure Judge Patno will tell you, it's each of the justices of the peace run their offices differently. And so it's really challenging to find, I mean, yeah, I mean, Judge Patno here's criminal cases. A lot of the JPs in here do not. So how do you really do comparison, which is why I thought it was important to have the Gilliam County Circuit Court, which is Mary Beth's position, because she is handling criminal cases, and so maybe that provides a little bit more of a comparable. It's not a perfect science, I will say that. But based on that, that is where those numbers are in here are coming from, that the proposal would be, at least for step F, which is the top step, about $1.50, give or take, increase is what I'm proposing. And that's really based on, if you look at where Sherman County came in and where the state of Oregon came in, and their comparables, that seemed like somewhere in the $27 range was where they ultimately landed. And the other reason, just to be fully transparent of why I picked that particular number, is I'm also trying to avoid having all of our people at different cent increments. And we already have somebody in the step schedule that's at that 27. We already have a position. So I think over time it might be beneficial for us to look at grouping positions by classes rather than have everybody at odd cents in the union schedule. So that is partly why that particular sense is there. There was really no rhyme or reason to that particular sense, other than we already have a union member who is classed at that amount. So questions, comments, Kristen, Leona, anything that I missed that you want to add? Or
Do you have any questions?
I think my only question was where do you land then on that pay scale, and that was answered. So
Yeah.
yeah, definitely.
Mine too.
Couple of things. One, I went through the office and lived with Leona, so I have a better idea what it used to be like, what it's like now. So I'm comfortable with the reclassification. I do in general have some issues with the salary schedule for a number of reasons. With some research I've done, I'd like to, someday in the future, we need to maybe have a little executive session to start the process and have a discussion, because after going through union negotiations and some of where we're at now, I think there's some inequities that we need to really talk about.
Yeah, the entire schedule.
Entire schedule. That's just something get on the radar screen, because I think it's something we need to do. I've kind of learned the process of how we got here.
Mm-hmm.
It baffles me.
They usually do, as I recall from other places where I've worked, that it can be baffling how they come up with the steps. Yeah.
I've been here a long time. I remember. Yeah.
And I think, I also just want to note for the record, because I think it's important to put in there that this is not just about an employee coming in and wanting more pay. But I think Leona, and you'll see, and this is why I included the red line so that people could actually see the differences in the job description. I mean, one of the most significant things that was not included in the original one was that she serves as a probation officer. And so that carries a level of responsibility and follow-up that was never captured in the original classification.
I've done about 25 cases and half of those are juries.
Yeah. So I just think, I just wanted to note that. I know, we'll have I'm sure we will have other employees who are interested in how this process unfolded and questioning whether maybe they should pursue it as well. And I just wanted to say for the record that this really is about making sure that the job description matches what is being asked of this particular employee and make sure the pay rate's appropriate for what those expectations are. So, Chris, did you have
Just
something?
the only thing I wanted to add, which might separate Leona's situation from others, and I don't want to say Leona, I want to say the court administrator situation, because it's not about an individual, it's about the position. It's that I'm bound by the Code of Judicial Conduct. So there's things within the Code of Judicial Conduct that I could be sanctioned for if I violate that code. And some of those things are ex parte communication and things that have to protect me from information that would that could cause me to have biased information about a case. So that's why Leona is the probation officer and why I'm not. And also for the voting public to understand why I'm not doing that and why she has to do it in our situation. So just wanted to make that clear.
Questions about this. If not, what we're looking for is sort of a two-step motion, which we've done with previous reclassifications. The first step is basically approving the job description, formally reclassifying the old administrative assistant position over to the new court administrator position. And then also approving the salary schedule so that Ellen knows what to pay.
Ready?
I move to approve the position description of court administrator. Justice Court as presented, and reclassify the position of administrative assistant, Justice Court to court administrator, Justice Court effective immediately.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the position description of court administrator or for court administrator justice court as presented, and to reclassify the position of administrative assistant justice court to court administrator justice court effective immediately. Is there further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. And then I just need approval for the salary schedule and then to add that into the union schedule.
I move to approve the salary schedule for the court administrator, justice court as presented, and to direct staff to incorporate the position in the salary schedule for represented employees.
And I will second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the salary schedule for the court administrator justice court position as presented, and to direct staff to incorporate the position into the salary schedule for represented employees. Is there further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Chris, I'll follow up with you. There's just a letter that Ellen will need that goes into Leona's file documenting when the court made the decision and what steps she comes in at, which she'll come in for the top step, obviously. So I'll follow up with you on the paperwork.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, let's move on to 7.4. April's been waiting patiently. Discussion and possible action on lease of Broncos Building office space for Victims Assistance Program. Do you want to come up, April? Come on up.
That's all right. I need you to distract me.
Right.
As I had, do you want me to go ahead and talk, or you have
Yeah,
questions?
no,
Okay.
go ahead.
So as I had, I sent you a couple different documents, and one was a letter from Marion Weatherford in support of leasing office in Arlington at the Gronquist Building. And the reason that I want to do this is I've been moved to Arlington because of my health issues as a Arlington employee. This has been really beneficial because a lot of our cases are in Arlington, and so it's easier for me to meet with people. But I have used the Arlington Regional Office, the sheriff's office down there, and people don't want to come in because it's a cop shop, right? So people aren't wanting to meet with me there. So I know this is bad, but I mean, if I know the person, I brought them into my home, I've met at the restaurant, I've, met downtown, I've met at the school. So I put it into my VOCA grant this year that the rental, I talked to Kelly Markheim, who was there at the port at that time. And I asked that, how much would it be and everything, and we discussed it. She gave me numbers. I was planning to do it and bring it to the court, and then they rented to Vestas. And then Vestas was gone, and then Vestas came back. And so it was like, I never got in. I was trying to get in and I couldn't get it done. I couldn't get my foot in the door. So I would like to lease the smaller office. I added it to my VOCA grant. My grant monitors in the State Department of Justice, crime victims, were really excited about it. And so if I could possibly move forward with doing that, I would like to do that. It would be what did we decide on? I'm sorry. $650. And then I would use the port's internet, and then it would be $100 for utilities. And so I did write in my grant for more than that, just in case something happened, I need to pay for internet.
So how big is this?
It would be the smallest, I want the smallest office space in the back. It's the
Back on the
cheapest
right.
one. Yeah, it's the back to the right. It's right across from the bathroom.
Been a while since I've been there, so I can't remember how big that.
Yeah,
is.
it's pretty large.
Yeah, it
It's
is.
way
That's what I
bigger
was
than what I
thinking.
have.
Yeah.
So, I leave Tuesdays and Thursday afternoons to go to, I like start work early and then I leave early to go to rehab. And so Amy, this is what our kind of hope is that she could come down and use my office in the
That was
afternoons.
gonna be my question, because we think it's gonna be a really great thing to be utilized by more than just you.
I just couldn't, I
But-
would need to be careful because
Yeah.
it's paid with grant
Right,
funds.
that was my question.
So,
How do we do that?
yeah, I would have to be careful with grant funds that it's not something, and I think it would easily pass because most of the people she works with, there's like a victim involved. So we're kind of in the same realm,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. No, it doesn't, because we were wanting to utilize it as well, but.
Oh, the same space.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
that doesn't seem feasible.
So it would have to be like, there would have to be, I don't know. I mean, we'd have to put a percentage of who was there and who paid for
Right,
what, and we'd
right.
have to do
Yeah. it would
all
be
of that. Mhm.
Complicated, and then you still need a private space for you and Amy both need private.
Yeah, because we have to, right, because
Right.
everything's confidential.
Yeah.
So, that's difficult when you add two more people that aren't
Right.
familiar with the same positions, kind of in the same realm in an office. So, and then I also put in for, in the grant for furnishings and everything. I don't know how long it's gonna take to get. I ordered 2 beds and it took over a year to get them.
My
So,
next budget.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of ridiculous. So I'm hoping I can go somewhere and just buy it off the showroom floor, buy what I need.
Right.
But, I'm kind of excited about it. I
Yeah.
think it would be great.
I'm excited about it too. I think it's gonna be really good for our community.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, Amy is constantly down there.
Yeah, she
so-
could have used it yesterday afternoon.
Yeah, so that would be
You know,
great to have
mhm.
her have a space to land. And she's,
How often would it be that you both need the space?
Well, you would
Seldom.
be in it except for the days that you're.
Well, I know, but if you
Right.
wanted to be down there and you couldn't because April was in, that's what I was wondering. I'm wondering the feasibility of another office down there, just because we did have our.
I'd love to see that too.
I mean,
I don't know
I don't
what.
know what else
honestly,
within the county-
They aren't charging that much. I mean, really, and I think, it's Gilliam County. So
Right.
I would kind of, my own personal, I would like to see another office in there just for county officials that need to come down to meet with people or whatever, to be, more flexible.
Mhm.
So,
I think it'd be advantageous for the entire county staff to have that availability.
mhm.
Maybe
What do you
there needs
think,
to be
Judge
another
Pat?
Well, I
discussion.
remember back in the days when it's Community Counseling Solutions now, that used to be owned by Gilliam County, and it was a space for people to go to on the north end of the county and utilize, and staff members.
And I worked in that office,
Well, I think that
then,
needs to be a discussion that we have someplace
Yeah.
with some justification.
Because I could also see, as an example, scenarios where when we're meeting down there and our staff needs to print something, we don't have a way really to do that when we're meeting. Our county court staff, if we got it wired where it's in the county network, we would be able to, pull things up like that if we needed to. And it doesn't happen all the time, but it does happen from time to time when we have something last
Mhm.
minute that comes up. So I think what we're looking for today, we can go one of 2 routes. We can either do a motion that says, yes, we approve the lease, and county judge work that out with legal counsel in the court. Or you could maybe, if you're interested, basically agree in concept, and then I can work with Leah to get a lease back and just put it on the consent agenda at our next meeting, if you guys don't have any objections to the terms that, that April shared. And then April can kind of move forward with expecting that it's going to be signed and all of that. It's just a matter of getting the paperwork done.
That's
Yeah,
all
I
we
think
need right
the
now.
big
isn't it?
question today is, that's supposed to be, I guess they were still there.
I know, I saw them last night and I was thinking to myself,
So I don't know, I know I attended the board meeting the other day and they were gonna do check and see what, when they did this last lease, they said through the end of February, so I don't know what their status.
right, because they were supposed to be out March 1. But it's gonna, I mean, it's gonna take a little while for me to even get
Right.
in there and set up.
You kind of need to know when they're gonna be out.
Yes. And if they would, I
And
mean,
you need
It's
to
gotta
know
be
that
on the
you
lease,
have
too.
the lease
It's gotta be
and,
released too.
and they can't lease that to anybody else.
Yes,
So, yeah, I think our consensus is yes,
thank you.
big time, yes.
Okay, so what I'll do then is I will plan on just move forward with your plans. You're
Okay.
making sure when Vestas is gonna be out and all that kind of stuff. I will work with you and Leah on getting a lease and just have our council review it quickly, just to make sure it's got anything we need if we need to get out of the lease or things like that. And then I'll just go ahead and stick it on the consent agenda so that it has a formal approval, but go forth, I think is what we're saying.
Thank you. Thank you. That would be great. I appreciate it.
Yeah, you shouldn't be around to work out your home.
I think the court
No.
requested a lease to get kind of started on their end.
Mm,
Yeah, they did that, didn't they, recently?
So they may have something in the works already.
Yeah, they do have something working. I mean, they're working on it. I just haven't heard anything. I asked before if we could get it before the meeting, but I haven't heard yet. So,
There's having staffing
oh,
issues as well.
I mean, you know what? Yeah.
We totally get the staff.
Yes, I totally get that too. Thank you.
All right, thank
April.
you, April.
Okay, we'll move on. 7.5 is the item regarding the budget committee that we pulled off consent agenda. So the question was considering appointment of Leah Watkins to the Film County Budget Committee effective March 2nd today through December 31st, 2024. Where do you guys want to start?
Well, I guess just, I didn't follow, so I don't know when the posting is at. Is it still open? That's kind of what was indicated.
So we posted it, generally we post when there's a vacancy coming up at, so that we can get folks appointed in January. So we posted, this is Gary Miller had told us he was getting off the committee. So he told us back, I think in October, November, when Teresa reached out, we posted it back then and got no responses. And so it hasn't been posted since then, other than we have just collectively talked about needing to have a budget committee member and talking to people who might be interested.
I reached out to 3 people, 2 on the north end and 1 on the south end, and
I just wonder about a process.
no one
Because shouldn't
interested.
we, when we fill any committee or board position, have a process to follow that?
we are following the process. How are we
I mean, I
not
guess-
following the
Well, I
process?
guess we're saying we did last fall, but now we're just moving on from. not
Now we're
having
still
it.
trying to get people trying to find someone who would be interested in doing it. That was like,
So the
and
problem,
Nathan reached out for
I guess
several
the-
people as well.
the problem I would see with the process is when just appoint or get one person interest and it hasn't really been open and advertised and somebody finds out about it after we made that appointment, so problematic.
No, we did post it and we did ask for
Last
it.
fall.
Yeah, last for 3 months. We tried to find somebody and we talked about it in court meetings
Multiple court meetings.
multiple times.
Well,
And-
I know we talked about it, I just didn't know when, I thought we were gonna repost for some reason, but
I guess we could, but we're kind of running out of
yeah, we're out
time.
of time now.
Yeah,
And
I
that
mean,
was the issue why we started going out and reaching out to people and trying to find people that were interested in it. It's
have
a
any
sad
more comments?
fact that there's
Can
so
I make
many.
a comment
Sure.
about myself?
Sure.
So before I ran for treasurer, I actually attended a 2-day budget workshop on public budget law. So, and I've spent 4 years on the Condon School District board, with a year before that on the budget committee when we were making all the cuts, when we were having to go down the financial cliff. So I'm very well qualified to sit on the budget committee, and even if I don't get elected to the board, I would still
be willing to serve on the budget committee. And that was not my intention on getting on it to begin with, was not to make myself more favorable, so.
Now, I don't have any concerns over your abilities to do it, or anything. It's just to make sure a process is in place, and you understand that it's been posted and you went through it.
I have no angst about this lady's interest in serving on the county's budget committee. I don't know her dossier, so I can't speak to, her resume, I don't know, but her interest in doing so, I herald that. The angst for me is that this lady has announced her candidacy, and subsequent to that, she's appointed to the budget committee. So envision, if you will, you folks are the audience at a public forum, and the moderator says, I'd like to introduce our two candidates for county commission. And Miss Watkins is a county resident, lives for Condon, I assume, because I really don't know her. Lives in Condon
That's okay, I don't really know you.
and serves on the prestigious county budget committee. And let me introduce Denny Newell, who lives in the Arlington area and chews rocks and spits gravel.
And serves on the compensation board and has for many years.
Yes, and if that were the case for Ms. Watkins, if she had served for some period of time, I wouldn't have angst about that, but she has not. And she comes as a applicant for or interest in the budget committee and gets appointed at a time when, in my estimation, that serves as a disincentive for me to apply. And I take nothing personally about it. I don't think it's my issue.
I'm not taking it.
And I don't think it's your issue. I think it's my concern and the court's problem. Because I do see it as showing favoritism. Not intentional, perhaps. I don't know. That's not for me to say. But on the surface, it does not look good to me. And so I bring it to you.
Yeah, I think I completely misunderstood your angst when you first presented. I thought it was more about the position of the budget.
No, I understood.
And I follow what you're saying, but I also follow that we have a terrible time trying to fill our boards, and we need to get people on the boards, and we went through a process, and I didn't tie the two together even, so I know it was not. I didn't think about that as being an issue.
And let me say one thing more. If Ms. Watkins is the only candidate for that position, we will know that on the 9th of March. If she's the only candidate and still wants to serve on the budget committee, she certainly could be appointed at that time, and it would not look as it looks now.
Well, that's a good point. There's also an issue because if you happen to win an election, or we're the only one that ran, whatever, you already have a position on the budget committee, you can't have two.
No, you have to resign, and that's.
Well, and that doesn't happen until they get
Just be
sworn
a year.
in. It would be a whole year.
But you'd be looking for another, my point is, that we're looking for another budget committee.
Well, I don't think that'll be a problem.
Which is normal. We're always
Hint,
looking.
hint.
Sherry will do it.
No, I totally
Now,
understand what you're
that's-
saying, Denny. There's a perception there.
It's
that could be-
perception,
Yeah, and,
I'm not casting the stone.
and they're
at
very,
anybody.
very difficult in our position too.
I don't have trouble waiting till the next meeting.
I was just really glad somebody stepped up because I had made numerous phone calls and so had Nathan. And I know that Liz had reached out to several people too. And it does get frustrating because we have so many boards we have boards right now that don't have members because we just can't get people to step up. So
They like to complain, they don't like to.
that's a
So you
good,
call them on the carpet.
that's an excellent point. Yeah, I don't have a problem waiting either if that is what we need to do. So, okay.
It might just be.
And I'm not offended by it either.
So that's good.
Okay, so we will, so I'm clear on the say both candidates are in. What do you want to come back before the 16th? Because I only have one person who's raised their hand for the budget committee.
Then you need to take our sticks out and beat.
And the budget committee members, if you'll recall, are kind of our key people in deciding where we put a lot of county investments. So
Maybe we could put additional pressure on other people. So, I don't know. It's a good question.
Well,
Let's burn that
if I'm not
bridge when we'll cross
mistaken,
it.
I think Commissioner Shannon offers you a suggestion that you wait until after the 8th and make your appointment.
Then it might not
Yep.
be a problem. If it's after the 8th, it might not be a problem. You just go ahead and appoint.
But if it,
And
if it is, then we're back to square one. That's what we're
It is a
The
problem.
problem
yeah.
there is, do we post between now and then?
that's what I'm asking. Would you like me to post it?
I think we post.
Yeah, let's
again.
post it.
Okay.
And then we'll go from there and see what happens.
Because it would still be a problem if we have two
Yeah,
candidates.
if we're waiting too
And
long, it's a
so,
problem. It's
Yeah.
way too long.
okay, so I will,
And Nathan will be excited if it's to go back out.
we can post again and I will have Nathan call all of his friends and
Okay, and I implore all of you to help us
It's important.
find some people that might be interested.
It's important.
if,
It's not a difficult thing to do. It is not terribly time consuming.
And it was $83 million this last year.
Yeah, but it is very important.
go ahead.
Yes, Dee.
I would just share with you that I was going to bring this up at some point anyway, but when we have those vacancies, and we've had a lot of them at the Health District Board, I'm particularly sensitive to it because I don't live in Arlington. I live 10 miles away. Honestly, I traffic to the Dalles far more often than I traffic to Arlington. I don't go to the post office. My mail comes to my home. So I don't know when there's a vacancy, except that I serve on the Health District Board, but I don't know when there's a vacancy. So on the Health District Board, I've made it my point to be sure that those vacancies are noticed to every address in the district. And it's up to you, but I might encourage you to consider that. Because I don't take the Times Journal. I'm not on the county's website, and yet I reside and I might like to serve in one or more capacities.
How did you with the last position that we appointed today, make sure that went to your mailbox? Because it didn't.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, I received
We sat on a
flyer.
postcard and it
There
has
was a
a
postcard,
vacancy
yes.
on it. And on the flip side, I think it had the new county telephone numbers, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. I didn't know they didn't have it.
Yes. Yeah, and then again, we only got, 2 responses, but
Yeah.
at least
That to our
that affords everybody awareness.
Yeah. Okay, something to definitely
It
consider.
is.
Thank you.
Yeah, the one thing I would
It's expensive.
note though is that we have a lot of vacancies that we fill. So it's not like we're filling for one board, we are filling often for like
But we-
10.
We
And it
usually
goes
We
on
do,
could do,
newsletter.
we could at the first of the year do a mailer that included all board.
or at the end of the year, because we like to do it
Yeah.
so that because it's from
Mhm.
January to,
Yeah,
so.
I'm just saying like
November,
library,
December, we do a
library
mailing,
board comes up in June.
Right?
Some of our vacancies, the BOCTA boards come in up in October. Some of them come up in January. I mean, we, by statute, are required by certain laws to, some of them you can only run if you're in the right district. Some of them you cannot. I mean, I don't disagree that that might be a good idea for a health district. I just, from an administrative point, want to just caution the commissioners that we appoint a lot of people. All the budget committees to NORCOR. Does that go out to everybody?
Well, maybe not in every instance,
But
you know,
in some,
but particularly if we are having difficulty bringing people to the fore, that might be a consideration.
go the route one way, and then if we get nothing, then we take another step.
Thank you.
Yes, get on the county website.
Lots of information on there.
Subscribe to the Times Journal.
Okay, all right, so we will table that. I will put out another notice for the budget vacancy, as well as keeping Leah's letter in there for future consideration. And let's move on to announcements and next meeting. Next meeting is going to be March 16th in Arlington. We will be at the Quorum building. And Sherry, what do you got going on?
Oh, just the usual. There is a Mormon cricket informational meeting tonight at 7 at the
Arlington
City Hall at 7
We had one last week.
in Moore County. So if anybody's interested in attending that.
It's not till 7.
Not till 7. I like that.
I have a conflict.
Oh, good, I'll go.
Oh, they're all over.
I like 7.
They're all
I will too. So.
After the dinner. Anyway, there's that tonight. And then our new administrative assistant to the commissioners will come on board on Monday. So Miranda March from Arlington. So I will be in the courthouse on Monday, helping bring her on board, and I'm hoping the judge will be able to be there as well, because there's so many things I don't know. And then the next week, on the 17th, is Norcor. We're still working on our bylaws and some other technical things that go together. So we're still working on that, and the budget committee, Norcor's getting their budget committee together, and we have a budget calendar. If anybody's interested in that, I believe it's been posted on the website. And I attended the CATCO meeting on last Friday. CATCO is also working on some bylaws that unfortunately there were no board members from Umatilla County present when we got to that on our agenda. So the Warren County board member and myself thought it would be best if we don't do anything until, so we've had to get a extension because that was supposed to be done. So we're working on that at CAPCO among all those other things. And I think that's my March calendar.
What's up with you?
I attended the RAC meeting on the rulemaking for nuclear waste in the state of Oregon. That's a little over my head, but
yeah,
it's really been, the detail involved has been amazing, and the thinking that's gone through has been a good process to watch. Work through, because there's just a lot of detail in it. Had a meeting with the road department on the 10th of February, the entire road department in the office building. And I also met with the roadmaster, master assistant, and the road lead minister, office manager. We had our first meeting, recommended we do that every quarter. EOAC attended that, went to the Port Arlington last commission meeting that they had. I sat in on the North Gilliam County interview process, which was interesting and entertaining. And did do a tour and help tour because I knew where everything was. The new prospective executive director for the Port Arlington took me to Little Creek and up in the Mesa, out to Shovel Flat to the solar farm and highways was going to be the field land. And then we had a complaint about some trash at the shuttle station, which I talked to Commissioner Wilkins about it. Get the contact on it. They've done a pretty good job of cleaning out, but it looks like they completely pulled out and it's not
Oh,
completely.
I did see them there with a couple of them
Completely, they had a
with
bunch of
rakes,
pickers up on
raking
the hill,
stuff.
and they had snow blowers and trying to pile it up. The plastic that stuff was wrapped in just crumbled this winter into little
Oh,
big pieces.
really?
So it's a bit of a kind of a mess. So we do have some issues down there, and you are the commissioner, just so you know.
Oh, yeah, that's helpful.
That,
Did not realize.
it's been kind of a mess, and they saw me pulled down in there when I got my first complaint about it. And come over and talk to me, you guys need to clean this up. So, oh yeah, we'll clean it up. And they've worked at it, but they look like they're going. There's a little bit, especially around Hickerson's and down that area up in the rangeland a little bit, and there's still some stuff here and there just around. It's way better than it was. But one of the residents drove by the other day and said they were blowing it up into the range with snow blowers. And I don't believe that was happening.
So they had rakes.
Is
when I
that
went
something, I mean, I don't know if this is even a possibility, but would you like me to check in with Sheriff Betancourt to see if maybe like the Norcore work crew?
They, we don't have a North Fork.
We don't
Oh,
have
they're
any.
not.
No, they don't,
Oh, okay.
they don't exist anymore because of COVID and.
Got it. Okay.
Some other.
There's a crew out of Hermiston that's expensive in West Angeles, but it's a temp service deal and it's kind of expensive. I just think they need to, it's gotta be some, I mean, it's at least McMorgan, but they subleased that part to
to
Avangrid, and Avangrid needs to be responsible for get cleaned up.
But we could go to Xander and suggest that, I don't.
He put the pressure on.
Yeah.
I'm meant to make that.
Okay,
Okay.
and something I didn't mention was I was privileged enough to serve on the Port of Arlington interview panel for their new director, and that was very fun and interesting. I enjoyed that. And there was something else. I attended the board meetings via Zoom the other day as well to see being accepted.
Wonderful. For me, just general announcements, just a reminder, not to anybody on the room, but in the room, but anybody who might be watching us later. If you typically ask us for money, grant deadlines are coming up. It's March 15th. I have not received a single application yet. So I'm just saying, if you're one of those folks that uses county money to operate, you might want to check in, get your application in.
I keep reminding everybody too, and this, well, I don't have a grant writer, I don't have time to write a grant.
Well, they're not that hard.
They're not that hard. Most of them have been doing it every year for 3 years. So,
Yeah. We
and we help
purposely
them.
made it not be that difficult. So.
Yeah. So just a reminder, as you see people who you know we funded previously, you may remind them.
I
Wait,
did
no,
talk with Port Arlington, they had some capital improvements they'd like to do in the Grumpus building, maybe they could get something in for that.
Be good. To Find up one of those big rooms so we can have space.
Okay, the other things that I wanted to flag for you. Judge Morley reached out to me earlier in the week and requested that the IGA that we currently have in place for Amy doing juvenile director services be extended by a month. So I think they interviewed some candidates. I'm not really sure where they are in their recruitment process. So I wanted to just run that by you and see if there were any objections to me having legal counsel just dropped up a simple amendment saying it's extended by another month.
If Amy's okay with that, then.
Okay, I'll probably stick that on consent agenda just to get a formal approval, but I wanted to, Amy was asking me this morning.
This isn't the end of March.
Right now, 1st of March,
Oh, 1st
so
of
it
March.
expired yesterday.
Oh.
And so Amy was asking yesterday,
What
am I on call? What am I supposed to be doing? And I said that we would talk about it today and I'd get some direction. So I'll let Judge Morley know that we're okay with moving forward with an amendment, and I'll just tell Amy to stay on her post until I'm hoping that they're close to having a hire. So let's see, the other piece I wanted to just highlight is that we are moving forward with the executive assistant recruitment. I mentioned before we started the meeting, we had a good number of applicants come in. And so we're in the process now of doing those initial reviews, and I'm hoping we'll be able to do some interviews next week. And then hopefully have somebody on board, depending on what kind of notice they need to give by late March, is my hope. So that is moving forward. And then the other piece that I wanted to just put on your radar is that I did have a discussion, a Zoom call with the governor's Oregon Solutions, Courtney, who's in the Eastern region, pulled together Jordan Maley, me, Commissioner Doran from Umatilla County, and Commissioner Lindsay from Morrow County. And then Larry, and I forget his last name, is the extension agent out of Morrow County, along with some folks from Oregon Department of Ag to talk about Mormon cricket funding. Apparently the governor in the special session that the legislature did, I think late last year, had allocated up to $5 million in Mormon and grasshopper, it's not eradication, they told us not to use that word, suppression is what they told us. And so they were wanting to talk to us about what those funds would look like. And my understanding is basically 800,000 will go to seasonal ODA employees to come out and help with the surveying. If you remember last time we were talking about Mormon crickets, Jordan was saying that that is a need that ODA did not have enough personnel on the ground when the hatching was happening to get good counts. And so they're addressing that. So we should have more surveyors. And then the other 4.2 million, give or take, is meant to be for cost share grants. And originally when they talked to us, the idea was that they were going to do cost share grants with private landowners. One of the things we requested is that they reconsider how they structure those and allow the cost share grants to come to the counties for reimbursement, because Jordan's recommendation is based on how we've handled it here, is that, you know, Jordan's coordinated all those private landowners, they've had one pilot.
Never get them together. If you do that.
Exactly, and so we don't want each landowner having to contact their own pilot and figure out where to order Dimmelin and all that kind of stuff. And so the feedback that we gave to the state is that that money is great, but that we would like the opportunity, rather than individual landowners having to go to the state for reimbursement, that the counties be able to front the money, organize the private landowners, and then ask for reimbursement from the grant program.
You can have two scenarios that come out if you don't do that. One is the county's gonna have to do the spots where the landowner doesn't get it done, or you're gonna have missed spots in your treatment.
There's no efficiency in that.
Yeah, and I think they heard us. The governor's office was on the call, and Courtney took that as a marching order that she was going to weigh in from the governor's perspective on them looking at
It would be
structuring
easier
it
for
that way.
them as well.
A whole lot easier. Just the tracking, the accountability, all of that is a lot easier. And Morrow County, this will be their first year that the county itself has been, I mean, they've been, last year I think was their first year that they really started listening to what was happening over here. And so Commissioner Lindsay indicated that she thought that that would be more of a workable, our model would be something that Morrow County would be interested in replicating. And I don't think it's at Umatilla County. I think Commissioner Doran was just, it's gonna get there.
They're not there yet, so they don't know, they don't have experience.
Yeah. So he was
They need
just,
to be aware.
I think he was just listening in, the crickets are on the march. So I just wanted to give you that update that those conversations have happened there. The state is apparently in the process of writing the rules right now for the cost share grants and the rules around that, which I just, because that's not my expertise, just said, please check in with Jordan about whether, because I just want to make sure that any rules that they write don't eliminate the ways that we've handled or found to be effective in handling Mormons crickets in the past. So Jordan's connected with that group, and I think as the rules go forward, hopefully he can weigh in if he sees any problems, and I'll just stay connected if there's something the court, I don't know, needs to write a letter about or anything, we can do that. But it sounds like they took our recommendation and we'll make some adjustments. So I just wanted to flag that is moving forward, and I would expect they weren't, and I'm sorry that April already left, but Jordan wasn't sure, I think, what this last cold snap was going to do for the hatch, like what it would do on the hatching and the timing of all of that. But I would expect at some point we're going to hear from them for a funding request for.
Yeah, it's as
so.
mild as the winter's been.
Yeah. And it wasn't cold that long either. It's short-lived.
Yeah. Oh, and then the other takeaway piece that we also gave with ODA is that this should not, because the allocation was for 1 year, that this is not a one and done, that our experience is that the crickets are going to be here for multiple years. And so that we would hate to see the state make an initial investment and then say, well, we did our part, and then walk away and leave the counties to continue to have to do it on our own. So just wanted to flag that that is moving forward. If you hear from any farmers or ranchers who are curious about where we are on crickets.
Okay.
Okay, anything else for the good of the order? If not, it is 12:29 and I will go ahead and adjourn the meeting.